NATO allies are warning this morning that Ukraine and Europe must not be left out of any peace talks after President Trump's surprise announcement yesterday that he and Russian leader Vladimir Putin have agreed to start negotiations to end the war in Ukraine. Arriving at the NATO defense ministers meeting in Brussels today, the U.S. Defense Secretary denied claims the U.S. is turning its back on Ukraine.
There is no betrayal there. There is a recognition that the whole world and the United States is invested and interested in peace, a negotiated peace. As President Trump has said, stopping the killing.
Joining us now for more on this is CBS News national security correspondent Charlie D'Agata in our D.C. bureau. Charlie, NATO has held that there should be a united front against Russia in its war in Ukraine. So how is this new U.S. position under Trump being received by the alliance?
Well, Errol, I'll be honest with you, opinions are divided. Which in itself is no good thing. Most European partners are in agreement, as we've already reported, that Ukraine should not only have a say in any negotiations going forward, it should be led in the negotiations going forward. But the NATO Secretary General has tried to pull the alliance together, saying, look, we all want peace in Ukraine. We all want Ukraine to be in the best possible position. But as you said, many were stunned to hear that President Trump had that lengthy phone call with President Putin. Russian officials say that phone call went on for more than an hour. Both the president and the defense secretary have already said that Ukraine will have to make some concessions. That has caused some ruffles, giving up on any idea of like reclaiming territory taken over by Russia and Russian separatists. Most importantly, that area around eastern Ukraine and Crimea. That's always been a bargaining chip in future negotiations, not given up before the negotiations have even begun. So I think the real concern here is that Ukraine and Europe are not sidelined by negotiations between the United States and Russia.
And what's noteworthy is, speaking at Brussels yesterday, Secretary Hegseth said, among other sticking points, that any peacekeeping force potentially deployed to Ukraine should be part of a non-NATO mission. Let's just play that clip for our viewers.
Any security guarantee must be backed by capable European and non-European troops. If these troops are deployed as peacekeepers to Ukraine at any point, they should be deployed as part of a non-NATO mission. To be clear, as part of any security guarantee, there will not be U.S. troops deployed to Ukraine.
What does that mean? How would that work?
Well, he couldn't have been more emphatic. It's a good question. There is some limited precedence for European forces as peacekeepers, like in places like Bosnia, but nothing on this scale. But you could see something where countries like the UK, which they've already said, they may take the lead. But the reason the defense secretary said that are twofold. First of all, President Putin has tried to justify the invasion of Ukraine as an effort to stop NATO expansion, certainly to stop Ukraine from joining NATO. So if you've got NATO forces as part of a peacekeeping force, they'll literally be on the border with Russia, which is something Putin is not likely to accept in any kind of peace negotiations. Then, of course, the ramifications of having NATO troops in Ukrainian territory. Say there are flare-ups, which there always are. Then you have NATO allies right in the firing line. Simply put, Article 5, right, that means an attack on one nation is an attack on all. So theoretically, U.S. forces could see themselves drawn into a fight in defense of its allies, directly engaging in a war with Russia.
All right, Charlie, we appreciate your reporting this morning. Thank you.